here.
Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Teach me, Lord, to
This is for me. This one's for me.
down on my knees, till in your own good time you answer my pleas. Teach me not to rely on what others do, but to wait in prayer for an
Reed watching.
answer from you. Teach me, Lord, to wait while hearts are aflame.
Put that one on the door. Just start coming quiet. Orange is nut. Let me say it so people know it's coming quietly. And people in class. That's all right. And I'll leave this one.
Let me be on this and what you want me to be. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Teach me, Lord. Teach me,
Well, I'm glad you're here tonight. It has been an eventful day for us. It has been a very, very eventful day. Yesterday, if most of you don't know, Jamie and I came to the hospital under the instruction of going to the emergency room to just have some tests run. Ended up, we're having some tests run. But she's been in the hospital now, starting her second night tonight in the hospital. They did do some tests, and I'll get it out of the way so I can be back focusing on things that matter. She basically had a stroke in her basal ganglia, and it was caused by a clot, a blood clot. They think it came through her heart. They are going to now let her head and her brain rest for a couple of days, at least until Friday. And Friday they are planning to do an arteriogram to see how her heart looks. They've done a number of tests on her heart so far, and they all have looked good. They hadn't found anything wrong with her heart yet. There is no bleeding in her brain, which is very good. The stroke, where it is, affects her left side, which is already weak, which is probably good. If you're going to have one, you need to have the other one weak. And she is walking with a walker / a walking stick right now. We have been told that probably after the weekend she will be admitted to Siskin for 10 days to 2 weeks, we hope, and they will do their magic on her like they did the last time. So that's where we are. It's really been an emotional up and down day to find out on today, the 16th anniversary of her having a stroke the first time, to find out that she's had another stroke. So we've had a little emotion about that. We've had our moments. We've talked to the girls, and we've talked to my mom, and she talked to her brothers and sisters, and we've talked to a number of friends that have called. And it's been a good, we're very thankful, getting wonderful care here at Memorial Hospital in Chattanooga. Siskin we know about. When she gets transferred over there, we know it is an amazing PT to watch that. So if you want to, you want to remember us in your prayers, I'd get down and beg you on my knees if I had to, because we certainly want your prayers, and I want you to remember Jamie as she's going through that. Then just when you thought your day couldn't be any, first of all, then Jamie's sister tried to send flowers, and they will not allow flowers to come to the hospitals now because of, you guessed it, COVID-19. Don't want the flowers to get sick and spread disease everywhere. So she didn't get any flowers today. They wouldn't even allow me to bring them up to her. So anyway, but that's okay. That's all right. So decided this afternoon that I would stop at Logan's in Lookout Valley and get her a steak. We'd have date night tonight before Bible class. So about 4 o'clock, I was going to pull in. Well, they didn't get my order charge right and whatever, and it was, instead of being $20, it was $40. But I didn't want to wait for them to do the steaks and have to wait for them to do the new steaks. So we took what we had, got in the car, started to back out, and I put my brakes on and saw a truck moving. So I stopped. Well, the truck kept coming back, and the truck backed into me and backed into the car. Well, I started to get out. After I pulled the car back into the parking place, I started to get out, and the truck takes out and goes around the front of the building. Well, having watched enough police shows, I went around the other side of the building and cut into the parking lot and just blocked his way out of the parking lot. And I said, "Hey, you hit my car," gave him the pull over sign. And he said, "Okay, sure." Guy in a baseball cap seemed nice enough. So I point over, you pull over in that spot, and I'll pull over beside you. So I turned into there and pulled over beside him. He takes off out of the parking lot. Well, I decided I've got to find out what's going on here. So I chased him across the Walmart parking lot in his truck and me in my car. And then he turns out and he turns on Cummings Highway and goes like he's going toward Chattanooga. And when he's doing that, I see him and I follow him, and he goes under the railroad bridge there, those of you that know about Cummings Highway. And I get right on his tail, and I get right up beside him, point my finger at him, pull over in traffic. Well, he turns his blinker on and pulls over. So I'm thinking, okay, now this is good, but what am I going to do now that I've got him? I hope he's calm, doesn't turn into be some crazy guy. So he pulls over. I turn in and pulled in right behind him. By the time I do that, he scratches gravel off and leaves. Well, I pulled right in behind him, and 5 o'clock traffic catches him, so I'm sitting right on his bumper. Now, if I was 25, I probably would have gotten out of the car and gone and said, "Hey, man, what are you trying to do, you wackadoodle?" But wisdom prevailed, and I took pictures of his back of his car and called 911, and she said, "Sir, are you following him still?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Get out of pursuit." I said, "Okay." I'm out of pursuit, so I did not follow any further. And anyway, long and short, he left, but they have his tag number. My insurance company has his picture of his tag, and the police officer did an incident report, and he was a terrifically nice guy and very good. So I got back. The steaks were a little cold, but we got the job done, and I am grateful to all that helped me in making this an interesting day. As I said, this will be a very interesting day that I will not soon forget. We are going tonight to start a new study in the book of Daniel. And Daniel is a very interesting book. And the point of the lesson, the point will be called, the series is going to be called, The Lord's Friend in a Lion's Den. And of course, that's from Daniel chapter 6. And that's probably one of the more familiar stories in all of the Bible, and I think it'll be one that we will enjoy going through. As we look, by the way, I did go home this afternoon and did Bobby Walker's funeral, and while I was there, I tried to pick up some things of mine and some things of Jamie's, and in doing that, I walked off and got my Bible. So I do not have a Bible, so I'm going to be putting the Bible up on my computer and looking at it as we go through tonight. But Daniel in the Lion's Den is probably one of the more famous stories in all of the Bible. Of all the stories that we know from the Bible, it's probably one that just about everybody knows. If you were to put a picture up of somebody standing in a lion's den and you had them around, you say, who is that? Almost everybody would say, that's Daniel. So we are going to begin with looking at the book of Daniel. And to give you some insight into that, I'll give Jamie her Bible back now. If you go back, it is a question of, without question, the fact that the Lord did stop the mouth of lions because of Daniel's faith. In Hebrews chapter 11, verse 33, and if you were in the third grade at Georgia Christian over about a quarter of a century, you probably learned Hebrews chapter 11. And certainly Daniel was saved there. But in a greater sense, in a bigger sense, in another way, Daniel seemed to have always spent his life in a lion's den. According to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 4, in that story where they're talking about the visions of Daniel that he saw with different things, Babylon is shown, the Babylonian kingdom is shown to be and described as being like a lion. And quite honestly, Daniel was held captive in Babylon most of the time period covered in the book. There's another sense in which he was in the lion's den, or in Babylon's den, for over 70 years. Daniel chapter 1 and verse 21. Of course, we know, and I've been reminded twice by friends today, that the devil is pictured as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. That's 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. But still, there's another way in which Daniel was in a lion's den. He was in that lion's den, but while he was in the lion's den, he always had God's care. Just as the Lord delivered Daniel from those lions, he also, throughout his life, every time something would come up, he was delivered from his adversaries. Now, there's going to be some things that we're going to talk about that are matters of conjecture. I'm using Wayne Dunaway's book and I'm using Rex Turner's book for my primary source of research in doing this class. I'll also be reading some other commentaries. Both of them have some predictions about the future they think are told in Daniel's book. And in looking at those, some of those, Wayne may be wrong with, Brother Turner Sr. may have been wrong with, I certainly could be wrong with. But I know one thing about it, that both of them are right about, that I'm right about. The things about the Father, the convictions about the Father's care for each one of us are not in any way wrong. They're not wrong at all. If you would give a theme to this book, I think, and I got this from Wayne Dunaway, he said, it's good for the soul to know God is in control. It's good for the soul to know God is in control. This was not part of my prepared lesson, but it's been good for my soul today to know God's in control. I did, after thinking how silly I looked, chasing a guy down Cummings Highway in rush hour traffic, I thought, While I was sitting waiting on the police officer, I just started laughing and said, that's pretty silly. I mean, you've got insurance on your car, you'll have a deductible or whatever, but so what? You've been in the hospital raining money anyway. It's no big deal. Just laugh about it and go off. We've had to deal today with Jamie's second stroke. We've had to deal with the fact that we came here, we did not have any idea there was any heart issues. Now they're checking some heart issues. It looks like they're going to be very minor and not very serious. But it's been a day when I truly can say it has been good for my soul the last 2 days to know that God's in control. There are some things that I don't control. There are some things that are completely out of my control. We had plans to go to Montgomery this weekend to be there for the girls' birthday parties. Those are out of our control. We can't do that now. But, like I told Jamie, we were sitting on the bed talking. You get through this, there'll be a lot more birthday parties. And that's more important than just one birthday party. So we've got that. And I think that in our lives, I think it's good for the soul to know that God is in control. I think is the main message of the book. You're going to see from chapter 4 and verse 26, he says that heaven rules in the New King James Version. And in verse 17 of chapter 4, he says this, that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, gives it to whomever he will, and sets it over the lowest of men. Therefore, dropping down to verse 35 now, he does according to his will among the inhabitants of the earth. Did you hand me the water? Or some tea? It is my belief, and it's the belief of Brother Turner, and my lovely assistant is going to hand me some water now.
You can sit up.
Brother Turner and Brother Dunaway, that in both of them are of the opinion that the miracles, many of the miracles in the book of Daniel were designed to show both the Jews, the Babylonians, and all the world that God is responsible for his people being in Babylon. The book opens with Daniel going into captivity and all the things that go on around that. Well, I think you'll find that the book shows that God is in control and that not the gods of the Babylonians, the gods of the Assyrians who were just put out, no other God with a small g is in control, but Jehovah God is in control. And if we don't learn anything out of this book, I think we need to learn that God rules, or God is in control, and God's going to make fools out of anybody he wants to. If you look at Psalm 115 and verse 3, you'll find God talking about making fools out of men, the foolishness of men. No king, no created thing can do anything to anyone that God does not cause or allow to be done. Now that doesn't mean, while we're on the subject, for some reason strokes and heart trouble, that does not mean that God caused Jamie's stroke. It does not mean that God willed for it to happen, but it does mean that God allowed it to happen because the world we live in. We live in an imperfect world. We live in a world that is just, since the Garden of Eden, it's just been a dumpster fire, as they would say, the kids would say today. It's a dumpster fire. Just always something going on. Today, I just couldn't get over what was going on today. All I needed was, I got there and my insurance renewed on July the 1st. I didn't have my new card with me. I could just see, now here I have, somebody's banged in my car, and now a police officer will write me a ticket, as he should. I could probably get it thrown out by taking my insurance to court because I don't have a current insurance card. Instead, he said, hey, Mr. Walker, don't worry about it. What's your company? I believe I can get it up for you on my computer here. And he pulled it up, had my policy number, said, yes, sir, you're current, no problem. I said, yeah, I know it was. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. But anyway, so we got that done. God allows things to happen to us for reasons we can't always understand. 2 weeks ago, we talked about, in our morning devotional, about God's providence. seen it in the rearview mirror. Again, I'm reminded of that. I'm confident. I really cannot see how, but I'm confident that when this week is over, when Jamie's been through Siskin, when she's been through all the work, the effort, the energy, the expense, all of that it's going to take for us to provide for her to get her health back. When all that's done, I'm confident that God is going to show me something good in it. I don't know if it's going to be because Jamie will be able to be my mom mentioned this day, Jamie will be a very good missionary at Siskin. Better than she could the first time. The first time, she could hardly talk when she got there. This time, she can talk quite well. Her speech has not been affected. She's got a chance to talk to people, to reach to people, and to do things that can really matter in people's lives. So I'm thankful about that. It's good for the soul to know that God is in control. That's a great source of comfort for the faithful. Last night, as Jamie and I prayed this morning, I was at peace in spite of the fact. I was at peace this afternoon in spite of the fact I did not want to hear the word stroke again. I wanted mini stroke, I wanted TIA, I wanted, it's going to be over in a week. It's going to take a little longer than that. But I still knew God had this. She was, I don't know how many times worse than this 16 years ago today. 16 years ago, in about 4 hours, the doctor would walk down as I walked out of the thing, and he said, "Where are you going?" I told him, he said, "Don't go away far, because if you want to be with her, if she passes, you need to be close." Well, nobody's talked about her dying on this trip. That has not been part of the discussion. And so naturally, I slept very well that night, knowing that she might die and they might come down there and tell me to come quickly. But those of you that know the story, if you don't, it's on Facebook, you can read it, look at that. She made a miraculous recovery. There's a little setback, a little bump in the road. We're going to be all right. But I want us to think about all of us in a real sense, in every Christian being a modern day Daniel. John chapter 15, verse 13 to 15, talks about some of the most comforting words Jesus has in describing believers in him. He says, "You are my friends." Man, what a great thing to be the friend of God. Abraham, God said, "You're my friend." Jesus says to believers, "You're my friends." What a wonderful thing that is to be a friend of God. A second thing that kind of goes along with that, from 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8 that we already referenced. Every one of us, as we study for the next quarter, we study the book of Daniel. Every one of us is, in one way or another, in the lion's den. Now, how is the devil going to work? I was talking to one of my daughters today, and she was talking about the devil had his foot on the gas, and yeah, he did. But I said, I don't know who didn't tell that crazy sucker. He works on salary. He doesn't get overtime anyway. He works all night, he works all day. He still doesn't get anything extra. He gets the same pay. But seriously, as we deal with this, we are going to find as we go through this, I hope you'll be able to make some application in your life of where you've had times when you were in the lion's den, and that you could say, "You know what? God got me out of this." I'm confident that in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is from now, 2 weeks of therapy, I hope, because that's what Medicare will pay for, 2 weeks of therapy, that Jamie is making progress and really moving back toward getting over this second stroke. And I won't be doing these from the Memorial Hospital anymore. I'm confident of that. But what's more comforting to me is that even if something doesn't turn out that way, God is still in control. And even though I'll be in the lion's den and they will be ripping at me every way you can imagine, if something didn't go the way I would like for it to go, it would seem to me it's going to be bad. But in doing that, I think hopefully I'll have the faith to be able to see in whatever happens, God's in control. God's got Jamie, God's got me. And if you're a believer, God's got you too. The same Lord that Daniel chapter 6 and verse 27 says delivered Daniel from the power of the lions is the one who helped Paul. When Paul says in 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 17, he was delivered out of the mouth of the lion. And because of those same truths of what he did with Daniel and what he did with Paul, we can be confident that 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 18 applies to us. And the Lord will deliver me from every evil work and preserve me for his heavenly kingdom. To him be the glory forever and ever. Amen. 2 Timothy 4 and verse 18. It's good to know that we have the Lord here as a friend. While we're here on earth, while we're in the lion's den, we've got the Lord caring for us. The Lord said the lions won't eat you. Now, are there going to be times they may scratch us? Yes, there are. There will be times their claws may cut into us? Yes, they do. But in spite of everything, I don't know what's going on in your life. Listen, I'm so confused about what's going on in our life right now. I don't even know what's going on in our life completely. But I know one thing. I know that God has got control of this. God is taking care of me. Just like God took Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which is an interesting thing we'll talk about next week as we get into them, because if you read this week, I hope you'll read chapter 1, you'll read about Daniel. Well, Daniel was not his Hebrew name, but he's the name we all know him by, or the name we know in the book by. Now, what's his Hebrew name, but it's not the name that he was given by the King Nebuchadnezzar. But the other three Jews, we know them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that's their Babylonian names. Now, isn't that strange? I want you to start this week, go back and read and study from the chapter 1, especially as we talk about the three guys that got thrown in the fiery furnace, the four young men that were not going to be willing to sin in chapter 1. You know, the story will be familiar to you, but I think it'll be good. It's also, if you're looking for something to do, parents, school hasn't started yet. Hopefully it's going to start soon. We hope and pray it will. It looks like it will. I saw where, for those of you in Valdosta, I guess I saw today on Facebook that Valdosta schools are starting, I think, the Tuesday after Labor Day, so they pushed it back a month. Seminole County, South Georgia, is starting a week later. I talked to the principal at the elementary school down there. My good buddy Jay Winkler told me they were pushing theirs back a week. But whatever happens with that, whatever happens with Jamie, whatever happens in your life, whatever's going on, and I mean, there are lines on some people I know that are just chewing and chewing and chewing. It seems like they're not going to be cared for. But God has made the promise, I'll care for you. I'll take care of you. God always keeps his promises. I have had a long day. I meant to have more material prepared. I had a slideshow for tonight that I was going to go along with it, and Matt was set up ready for it, and I just couldn't get ready. I was late getting back here. I mean, when you have to play one item 12, I guess that dates me pretty far. When you have to run down a guy for hit and run, you probably need to be resting. But I do want to thank you, and for those of you that have thanked, that have texted and called Jamie or messaged her or messaged me with words of encouragement, I can't tell you how much they've meant to us. I'm not going to stand and say, well, I've got faith and it's an easy day. It's not an easy day. No, it is not. But I do have faith, and I do have trust, and I do trust God to do what's best. Now, I know what Dawn thinks is best, and that is in about 3 weeks, Jamie and I will be out walking, and she might even say, I feel like running. That's what Dawn would like, what Dawn thinks is best. I don't know what's going to be best. I don't know what's God's going to allow, what's in God's will for us, but I certainly appreciate your prayers for, and like I say, the news on her stroke was not exactly what we wanted at all, but like she told me, we've been through this before. We'll get through this. I'm going to get through this. I know what to expect at Siskin. I know how the drill is. I'll handle this. We'll get through this. And I believe we will. So thanks for being with us tonight. God bless you for watching and being a part of it. Thanks again for your call, your text, your calls, your emails, your private messengers, those that respond. I'm going to go on after this and put up a more or less detailed explanation of what happened today and where we are as best we know. Like I say, we do plan on, it looks like she's going to get to go back to Siskin, which if there's a better rehab hospital in the world, I can't imagine what it is. They were amazing for helping Jamie recover the first time, and I'm confident they will be again this time. If there's nothing else, I will get my music machine back over here, and after that I will start some music for you. Excuse me just one moment. My little delivery person is not as, doesn't have quite the flexibility that she did of movement that she did a little bit ago. But before we do that, I want to let's go to God in prayer, and I want to thank God for all the things that He's given us. Certainly want you to remember those that you're concerned about. My good friend by our morning devotion was Judy DiCristofaro. I've not heard from her today. She may have had something that she put up on Facebook. She had a heart valve replacement today in Fairfax, Virginia. Missy, still remember her. She's recovering from the fourth round of chemo and the second dose of it, second round of it. And want to remember her. She and Jamie have got a elder's wife hang together, or elder's wives are tough or something. That we're there and they're talking back and forth because it's so far been a pretty tough month for elders' wives, but they're all doing good and we're thankful to that. Let's go to God in prayer at this time. Our Heavenly Father, I come to you now and ask for forgiveness of my sins and ask you to be with us all tonight, Father. And I pray that as I come before you, that as I lead this group in prayer, that my heart will be right and my sins will have been forgiven, and that I can come before you and bow down to worship you and to pray to you and without interference on the part of my life. Father, I thank you so much for all that you've given us and all the blessings we have in our lives and all the good things we have. Father, I have been reminded once again of what a blessing it is to be a member of your family, as so many of your children have been so kind to Jamie and I and reached out to us and have helped us and offered of things that thankfully we haven't needed anything. But Father, they don't know how much it means to us for them to reach out and offer, to let us know, that to remind us of the love they have for us and the love they have for you. And they're showing us your love through themselves. And we're thankful for all of them. Father, I do ask you to be with Jamie tonight, be with the doctors, and be with all the technicians, the nurses, everyone that's working with her, and the therapists that are already beginning to try to help her recover. I'd ask you to give them all wisdom, help them to say and do the right things, help Jamie to, her body to improve, help her always to, and help me to always have the right attitude about things that are going on around us, and to remember you are in control, and that, Father, it is good for the soul for you to be in control. Father, I ask you to be with Missy as she is, the chemo, we pray, is working and effectively tackling the cancer against her. I ask you to be with Judy DiCristofaro this evening as she is in Virginia and has had surgery and is still in the hospital recovering from heart valve surgery. Pray that things will go well for her and that it went well today and will certainly improve the quality of her life. Father, I ask you to be with Mitzi as she continues to have the pain, the suffering she has, and she's in hospice care. I ask you to be with Gaston, Father, as he is in Martin Boyd and away from us and unable to be out much. Be with Sister Janie Heron, Father, as she is at home now, and so many are trying to be careful not to contract the virus. Be with our Sister Janelle Forrester. She is recovering, Father. We're thankful for her successful and her continuing rehabilitation of her knee replacement, or hip replacement. Pray that will continue to be well. Father, we're so grateful for all the things you've given us. We're thankful for our physical families, and I'm thankful for mine and the love they've given to me and Jamie today, and the encouragement they've been to us, Father, as they've encouraged us to always look to you as well. Be with us now and keep us safe. Forgive us of our sins. We ask all these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen. For those of you that are members of the Trenton congregation, I have an announcement for you that I hope will make you as happy as it made me. We are going to, this Sunday, meet at 10:30 for worship. We're going to restart our worship assembly. Now, if you do not feel comfortable coming, do not come. We will still be streaming live. You can still watch it. If you want to wear a mask, we encourage you to wear a mask. If you choose not to, please make sure you social distance, and please give people their space and respect people. My advice, I really saw the red, the yellow, and the green wristbands. I haven't been able to find them. We've had a couple things going on this week. I hadn't found them yet, but I wanted to at least have like red or gold, red or yellow, to give people and say, yellow means, hey, I'm all right, talk to me, but don't touch me. Red means, please let me just leave quickly. Hadn't found those yet, but we do want you to begin to worship. We're all going to be in a very deliberate, and to me sometimes it looks like we are plotting as we slowly get things back to better. And that's our theme for Trenton for 2020, is we're not back to normal, we're back to better. And we're moving toward that. But we would encourage you to, if you feel like coming out, be out. That's the big news for what's going on. We'll have a discussion. Matt and I are going to have a devotional roundtable discussion, I guess a roundtable, or from one chair to the other table discussion on Sunday night. Matt and I will be together with you on that. I'm just so happy for the way things are going, the way we're going, the way that things are going. I'm, like I say, a little bump in the road today. We hit a little curve, but we're going to be all right. And again, thank you for your encouragement of us. Some of these other people that are shut in, some of these other people that are unable to get out,